here. So thanks for tuning in either way. Our purpose here today is to give you a historical and current insider view to Oklahoma City. So the goal is we're going to dive into some historical facts and psychological things, a bit of the who, what, when, where, and why of the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, so that you can understand why I invest where I do, and perhaps these will be useful bits of data for you. The purpose of this is not to insinuate that any part of town is good or any part of town is bad, or that you should avoid living in certain areas or zip codes, or that you would be endangered living in this place or that place. Not the purpose at all, and please do not take anything like that from this video. This is to dive in to how our city has evolved over time and what that means for you today. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen here, and let's jump over to this map. So what you see here is the Oklahoma City MSA that is comprised of Oklahoma City, the city of Moore to the south, Norman beyond that. People in Norman might argue that they're not part of the MSA, but they are. The village, Nichols Hills, are encompassed within the city of Oklahoma City, and then Edmond to the north, out to Bethany, Yukon, Mustang to the west, and Choctaw. There's a dozen different small cities over here. But all of this entails the Oklahoma City MSA. And what you need to know is that this point right here, that is the center point, more or less. So anything up here is northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. And painting in broad strokes, what you can know is that the southeast part of the city, please ignore everything I just said. This is the center point. Darn my boxes. So northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. The southeast has historically been a combination of industrial, manufacturing, efficiency housing, affordability. There's a place a little bit further south. Yeah, here we go, Valley Brook. Years ago, I thought that this economically depressed area would be perfect for some amazing real estate investing, mainly through the idea of you can just buy these houses up so cheap and knock them down and redevelop it. But what you'll notice, and it'll be more evident when you're in the area itself, but what you notice is that these lots are much smaller than lots can be in the city now. So what happens is that because of the decisions that were made long ago, the ability to come in and redevelop this area would be dependent on you coming and buying not one lot in a house for a good price, but you've got to buy 2 or 3 in order to get something that's going to make sense now. So for that reason, Valley Brook tends to remain economically depressed, even though, objectively speaking, it's in a good location in the city. Good highway access, good access onto 240. You can get up to 40. And so it gives you good access to Tinker. Yet, historically, people have preferred, it seems, to live on the southwest side or the northeast or northwest side than this immediate southeast area. Now, the base here is huge and it continues to grow. And as a result of that, Midwest City, Del City, and this portion around the base that are Oklahoma City continue to do well, both for homeowners looking to purchase at a lower rate than they would be charged up here in the surrounding areas, and for landlords who are operating rental properties. And if you're looking to operate sizable apartment buildings, and this has fantastic access to the base, which is a big driver for people cycling in and out of the metro. Now, let's zoom out a little bit more and get back to the nitty-gritty. So historically, 115 years ago, this was your city right here. And then a real estate developer named Israel Putnam decided that there was a war college up here, right here-ish, and it was a good long drive from the city, or they didn't drive at the time. A good long jaunt from the city. So the people that couldn't afford to live here, as this continued to get more and more valuable, as Oklahoma City stole the capital status from Guthrie and relocated it here. We had a little boom. So they needed somewhere more affordable to live. And there was an old military college up here. So what he did is he started buying this up and developing it, which is why today it's called Putnam Heights, Putnam Addition, and Putnam this and that. And that was part of the first urban expansion. But it still wasn't the most affordable. And so you had to have something that was a little bit more affordable, which is where the South Side started developing. And then over time, what tended to happen is that laborers that were fueling the development of the city would live on the outskirts, while this dense part of the urban core was too expensive. And so as the city continued to grow, you can just wring this out and out and out. But then at some point along the way, it became pretty publicly known that the cities in the urban core were no bueno. Now imagine that, right? Who's ever heard of the cities in the urban core not being good? So what you tended to have is people looking to get a good school at a affordable rate. Therein lies the value of more. It's close to, with easy access to the urban core, but there were some good schools. And so it was with Edmond, same thing. Close access via the highways, good schools. And so Edmond started to value first, you can say, and has continued to value tremendously. Same thing with Moore. The heyday for Moore has really been the last 15 years versus Edmond has been booming for 35, 40 years. As they boom, they get more expensive. So it's pushed people out to these areas like Blanchard, Newcastle, a number of places over here, and then Piedmont, Guthrie is to the north, Arcadia, Luther, Jones, Spencer, all this area over here that was very lacked density is now being developed. Now let's zoom in specifically to apartment buildings. If you're looking to buy or own apartment buildings, what you should know is that since city zoning got tightened up and more regulated in Oklahoma City, we've had a good adherence to city zoning. But before that, so that would be 1960s more or less. Before that, all throughout the urban core, you'll find apartment buildings of varying different sizes with all kinds of different norms as far as amenities, unit counts, square footage, parking per resident. It's just all kinds of different norms here because it predated city zoning or city planning or robust city planning at least. But as of the 60s, as we started to tighten that down, and definitely by the economic boom that happened in Oklahoma City in the 70s, we started to have a better understanding of city planning, how to zone, how to hold people to that. And so the housing boom that happened in the 70s precipitated a lot of multifamily in pockets, like over here on the south side by this country club right here. There's several all along the highway here. There are several on the highway here. You'll find a few here. And as you continue to go uptown, what you'll notice is that they're clumped because they're in a zone. So good adherence to city zoning. Well, that at the time was the affordable land, and that's where developers bought, and they slapped up anything from 40 to 350 units. And then we really haven't had another big boom like in the 2000s or the 1970s until the 2000s. And the most recent boom, because all of this land is now much more expensive, tended to go up here. So if you look in the last 15 years, this area all along John Kilpatrick Turnpike right here is just filthy with newly constructed A and B class multifamily. You look down here, this is Northwest 122nd, filthy with it. Every one of these roads up here, north and south, connecting 122nd to Memorial or the Turnpike, filthy with A and B class multifamilies. So, and again, why? Because that's where the city zoning allows it. It's the economical or possible land for these developers to develop. And then you'll see occasional properties here that were that were built in the 1980s or 70s during that last boom. So basically, if you want to buy small apartment complex, you want to look in the urban core. There are, and in urban core of Oklahoma City, there's an urban core of Norman that's a little different, and there's an urban core to Edmond that's a little harder to define. But basically, if you look at the oldest parts of each of these little towns, you'll find an area that predated robust city zoning, and you'll find a good variety of unit counts, sizes, you name it. But then if you're looking at something that was in an area developed since the 60s, what you're going to find is that the biggest economic boom since the 60s was in the 70s. So you're going to be looking at a lot of 70s and 80s products. They're going to be typically more in the uptown area or out on the fringes. And a good notable example that I've seen recently is I looked at a 190 unit apartment complex right about here. No, it's actually right here. And what was true is that when they built that 190 unit place, it was magnificent. It had a beautiful oversized pool, a clubhouse, a fitness center, just amenities, green space, amazing garden style complex. But the evolution of this area since it was built in 1972 has meant that the rents that they were getting I don't know how the rents have compared to what they were getting when they built it, but the current rents for that area would top out at about $625 per unit based on their unit configurations, which means that the price that the people demanded to get didn't work. And fast forward, insert partnership dispute or debt or something, and what you find is that they went out of business, and then it was a vacant, abandoned project. So you just want to be sure when you're looking at any property, you want to be sure it fits with what you're trying to accomplish. And so a really good way to do that, probably the best way I can personally think of that benefits me, is by working with a savvy real estate professional and their company, which is why we here at Craftsman Real Estate Services love to be a part of our clients' investing success. All right, let's jump back to our map. So if you're looking for a smaller property, definitely look urban core. There's opportunities for value add there for sure. If you're looking to bite off a little bigger, think, most likely a 50 unit or more, and you still want to do value add, then let's look at this other ring. You will occasionally find those far out, like up here, but you got to remember that 50 years ago, the city was much smaller. So you're not going to have that urban sprawl like you have today. And then if you're looking for A and B class properties, look further out. Look down here and more. Look up here on the Northwest Expressway is typically 70s and 80s. And then up here on Memorial or John Kilpatrick Turnpike and Northwest 122nd and Britton and Hefner, you'll find occasional A and B class built in the 2000s. And let's jump over to this. So thinking about why does this matter to you? Well, this is a weird thing, just to be fully honest. I'm going to show you why our urban churn continues to happen. This is one of the highest value zip codes in the metro. It is in the Oklahoma City metro. I'm excluding more from this. So people love to live in the Oklahoma City metro. And this area in particular, Quail Creek, has particularly valuable homes. This is Lakehurst, sorry. And then this is the Village, ever popular. This is Nichols Hills, probably the highest value homes in the metro. The Greens, pretty valuable. Yeah, so really good, valuable real estate. Here's the elementary school that services a lot of that really good, valuable real estate. That one, I believe, Johnson. Yeah, there's another one. Ridgeview is up. Oh, cool. Ridgeview is up to a 6. West Nichols Hills is at a 7. But this is the reality for these people right here, is that, okay, their elementary school is a 4 out of 10. Okay, well, all right, that's fine, right? So what's the high school? Or what's the junior high? Well, you see that one right there? That's John Marshall High School. That high school, by the way, serves all of this. So all of this zip code is going to John Marshall. Or are they? Are the people of Nichols Hills? Are the people of Lakehurst? Are the average residents of Quail Creek? Are they sending their children to the one? Well, I'm here to tell you, they're mostly not. Now, is there anything wrong with the one? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is there anything dangerous about it? Is there anything safe about walking across the street? Like, no, there are safe things and dangerous things everywhere. The problem is that what you see, or the situation at hand, is that what you see is that people will live in the urban core, when they're, by and large, post-college, post-education, they're young, they don't mind paying an outsized rent for an urban core small apartment because it's cute, it's hip, it's close to everything. And then you get a little bit older or germophobic or space conscious, and you want a little bit more space. So for the same rents, you can go a little bit north to the uptown area, and you've got 500 more square feet for the same price. And so then you start to see a little bit of movement up, and then people on average tend to start having kids, and they start looking at the schools, and they say, well, I want to be in a good elementary school. And so they might start in Oklahoma City public schools, and then at some point in time, for the people with the economic availability to exit, you will likely see that they will move to charter schools or private schools. It's worth mentioning that in this exact same area are the vast majority of the private schools, from Cassidy to Heritage Hall to blanking on the church name right now, but there's a big private Christian school here. There's another private Christian school here. So in the same area, with a high school that has drastically underperformed the projections and the hopes of the city, you see an exodus. But not everyone is going to stay put and move to a better school district. Or not, I'm sorry, not everyone will stay put and pay to send their kids to private school at a clip of $6,000 to $12,000 per student. Not everyone has those means. And I would venture to guess that that's going to be more typical of homeowners than it is renters. Many people will choose to move right up here. So let's go 73134. This isn't going to be the exact right zip code. Let's look at it anyway. Oh, okay. Well, Deer Creek schools. All right. I don't know why it's not showing me more, but of course it wouldn't. So Deer Creek Elementary here is showing up as a 5. Pardon me. Not the right Deer Creek. All right, here we go. So what you can see here is, okay, you've still got our 4 here, and then there's our charter school. Not doing so well. But here's an elementary school just north of the highway. It's a 7. Okay, so you go from a 4 to 7. What high school does this 7 feed into? Well, that 10 and that 7 both feed into this 8. Okay. What other high schools are in the area that you might feed into? Well, this 9 over here. There's another one over here that's not showing up for some reason. So that controls more of this reality than we can ever imagine. Let's look down here. I mean, if we were able to see everything, which I have no idea why it won't show us everything. If we're able to see everything, what we're going to see is that by and large, not always, but by and large, your elementary schools in the city can be quite good, but they almost always feed into high schools that are horrible. Like, look at these elementary schools. That's an awesome elementary. This over here is Putnam City. It tends to have very good schools compared to Oklahoma City. We've got privates, private, private. That's a charter school. That's got an 8. Look at that. Central Oaks pulling it well. That's a private school. South. Look at that. They're doing great. So let's look at high schools. You got ones. Out here in Putnam City, you get a little bit better. This is a charter school. No, that's a private school. This is a charter school. This is a charter school. This is a public school. Charter? Yep. That is a public school. But why is that one so high? And I promise to land this plane. This is important. I want you to see this. Can you see that one? I think you can. This is in Moore School District. So it's technically Oklahoma City address, but it's Moore School District. This is Oklahoma City School District. So there's just such a massive disconnect between the high schools that you're feeding into when you are in the peripheral cities compared to the urban core. So it happens over and over and over again. People are moving out of Oklahoma City school districts into the suburban or the Putnam City School District or the Edmond or Deer Creek or Piedmont, these peripheral school districts. Maybe not eventually, maybe not in elementary school, but if they have the opportunity, many people, and especially I would stand to reason, people choosing to rent are going to, instead of ponying up thousands and thousands of additional dollars per child, would rather spend $500 a month more to send all of their kids to a good school district that they know that they can age out through in an excellent way. So as you're looking at multifamily investments in the Oklahoma City metro, it's critically important to think, who is your likely resident, who's living there, what's true of their stage of life, what are their needs, what are their concerns, and then to predict that churn, can they get what they need here for the long haul? If so, you may have tenants that average 4 to 7 to 10 years or longer. If not, there's a predictable fast churn, and churn is expensive. And so if you're only useful to someone for 2 years of their life because there's a horrible elementary school up the road and you're filled up with 3-bedroom places, like, man, probably not going to feed well into that 1 out of 10 elementary school. That would be a pass for me. However, if you've got 3 and 4 bedroom apartments and you're in Edmond and you can feed into a good elementary, a good middle school, and a good high school, then you can predict that you'll have an advantageous scenario for people to say, you know what, I was going to send my kids to that 1 out of 10, but instead, how about we pay $200 more per month and all of our kids go to that great school? And so understanding kind of the ebbs and flows and the evolution of the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, and especially the schools and the apartment development trends, I hope that you can see some overlays to look through that will make certain projects make more sense or less sense. Because when you're analyzing properties, clarity is key. And just like that 190 unit ghost town that I showed a couple of years ago, on the face of it, it's exciting. It's exciting. It was like $40 a square foot that you could buy this place for. And it's immense. It's sitting on like 8 acres. But what are you going to do to make that acreage valuable? Are you going to spend the $3.5 million in developing or renovating the property and then lease it out at $625 a month? Like, it'll never work. Are you going to bulldoze it and develop it into a neighborhood? It didn't work. So in a bubble, something might look good, but when you're able to have the right overlays onto it, you can often understand whether it's truly a good opportunity or not. With regards to brokerage services, helping you buy and sell properties, and property management service, Craftsman Real Estate Services is honored to work with savvy investors who are hell-bent on building multi-generational capital. Bless you. Thanks for the opportunity to walk you through this. Let us know if we can serve you. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and comment with